and welcome to week 4 of our Homestead Frugal Living Tips Masterclass. This series is a 7-week series that each week we give 5 tips on frugal living. The first tip is buy in bulk. I see people that buy lots of grains and 50-pound bags of things, but they don't really know how to properly store their items. It is very important that you know how to store and to package things for long-term storage, and that you have a safe place to store them. It is a complete waste of money to go buy in bulk if you have no plan to do something with those products, such as we just bought 50 pounds of green cabbage from Azure Standard. So you have to really have a good plan. Make sure, if you're going to make that much sauerkraut. We try to be very careful about, buying in bulk and where we store. We actually, Mr. Roofer built a storage building, and he built it kind of like an ice chest, right?
Yeah, a lot of insulation.
Lots of insulation, and then you lined it with corrugated tin so that it is rodent proof.
Rodent proof.
And so another, because if you are buying, a lot of bulk items, or you see things on sale and you're just, buying, if you don't, you can waste lots of money very fast doing that.
Yeah. And
we check on our bulk storage items every day, just about.
Yeah, we look at it very often.
Yes. Okay.
Our second tip is birthdays. Birthdays can run into a lot of money if you plan on going to a lot of parties and buying presents for a lot of people, especially nephews, nieces, aunts, uncles, stuff like that. Not necessarily just friends, is even more. But when I was growing up in the 50s, birthday parties were an everyday occurrence. Regularly, we had 5 aunts and uncles, a bunch of cousins, and none of them had telephones. So everyone knew that when it was your birthday on that day, that everybody was going to show up, and you better be ready for them. And they would all bring a plate or a cake or pie or something, and no birthday presents were ever involved. And things worked out really nice. We didn't have any trouble.
Tell them what they brought this.
Yeah, that was a highlight. Those birthday parties were a highlight for us little kids. We got to eat a BLT sandwich on that day. Everybody brought BLTs. Only thing wasn't bacon, it was bologna. But we thought that was a delicacy back then. We got to eat Wonder Bread and store-bought stuff and cakes and pies, and we didn't have to eat homemade bread on that day.
This was in the 50s, and all he lived in a German.
Yeah.
They were all lived together. So.
Yeah, we were all within like 15 miles of each other. That was the furthest one away. Most of them just lived about a mile away.
I love this story because I think, the birthday celebration was that your whole family showed up and you got to have things you normally don't get to have, right, such as cake and store-bought bread.
Yeah.
So that leads us to tip number 3. I want to go back to tip number 1 because I did not talk about like buying beef or, pork in bulk.
Yeah.
So if you are going to do that, it is major money usually that you are investing, and you want to make sure that, if you have a chest freezer, that you're checking on it all the time. You want to make sure that you're rotating meat, and that, a lot of people, I think that's one of the things that is a problem when people, buy in bulk, is they don't give it enough attention at rotation and keeping up with it. Okay, tip number 3 has to do with your home economy. Of course, I've been waiting to give this tip because it's one of my favorites. Make your own bread, or make your own sourdough bread in my case. And if you can grind your own wheat berries, that is even better, because that will not only, it's more nutritious and it is lots cheaper. I think bread making is one of the most important skills to cultivate, and I think it will be more important as we go into the future. It's extremely important to know how to make sourdough, I believe, so that you don't have to buy any kind of yeast, and you can just have your starter, and it will keep, you can keep that forever. So if you go to the store and you read labels on bread, that list will make you want to make your own bread, besides for the expense. There's a lot of ways to make bread. You don't just have to do, start with sourdough. You can do where you do bread with yeast and you just keep it in the refrigerator and pull it out and bake it as you need it. There's just so many easy methods, and I will be focusing on those on our channel, because I have been making bread for a really long time, and I feel like that I've got some little tips and tricks that can help you save time and money. Okay, here is an example of some prices. So this is from Azure Standard. Organic central milling unbleached flour for a 50-pound bag, of course usually the more you buy in bulk, the cheaper the price, is $1.06 a pound. So my recipe for artisan no-knead bread is around a pound of flour. Red wheat berries, which you'll need to grind, you can buy a 25-pound bag for $1. Soft white wheat berries, you can buy a 25-pound bag for 42 cents a pound. Redmond salt, for the amount that I use in my artisan bread, it is 25 cents per loaf. So artisan bread, we have friends that make artisan bread for people. Those can, cost up to $12 a loaf. And some of the good store brands can cost at least $5 a loaf. So you're looking at you can make a loaf of bread for less than $1, especially using the soft white wheat berries. So definitely, I want to encourage you to make your own bread, and it is so fun, and you will just love it.
Tip number 4, butchering chickens for meat today is a little bit different than what it was back in the 50s when with our whole family. We ate one chicken per meal. That was pretty easy, and we cut and wrapped lots of chickens. Like I said before, we set a lot of chickens. I set a lot of hens, raised a lot of little baby chicks, but that wasn't enough to fill our needs. So Mom and Dad, they would buy several hundred chickens at a time. Sometimes straight runs, pullets and roosters, or sometimes just roosters. And we would end up saving the pullets for laying eggs, selling the eggs, and then we would butcher the rest of them. And I can remember Mom, we would do what we could do for one day. We wouldn't go overboard. And she'd line them up on the clothesline, and we'd, of course, process them on the clothesline. And then we had an old wash pot. We'd fill it up with water and boil water, and we'd put it in a 5-gallon bucket and dip our chickens in that. And then when it'd get too cold, we'd get some more water, rotate through there. So we had a lot of chicken picking. And we got good at picking chickens. Me and my sisters and my mother were usually the ones that did this chore. And Mom, she was stuck with picking the pin feathers. That was always the hard part. So she didn't trust us getting all of the pin feathers. She had to go over them. So we'd get those picked, and we'd get them washed, take in the house, and then we'd start cutting them up. And she taught me how to process a chicken. and we did it pretty fast. We would, of course, cut it off by pieces. Cut the legs and the thighs and the wings off, and then they were young chickens, so we could pull them apart, and then the insides fell out right there. We did not take the insides out first. That came out later, and it was easy, so we wrapped them all and put them in my grandpa's freezer. He bought his first freezer in 1951, and I still have that freezer out here in the backyard. I believe it'll still work. That's amazing when a Kenmore freezer will work for 72 years. It's kind of hard to get rid of it because it seems like it's part of the family.
Tell them what kind of chickens that y'all did.
That was the frugal part of it, maybe. Mom and Dad would only buy white leghorns. They liked the white egg because that chicken laid a lot of eggs, so they wanted white leghorns, but they were not a meaty chickens. But anyway, that's the ones we processed, and they were kind of thin, a whole lot different than the chickens you buy nowadays in the grocery store.
Right. There's no, I don't think people understand like what the difference between modern chickens and a heritage chicken, and that's actually all we eat here at our farm is heritage chickens, but it's hard to imagine Mr. Riffer's whole family.
We don't buy chickens anymore.
No,
well, we haven't been buying chickens at all. We raise enough to get us by whatever we want the whole year.
Mm-hmm. And we don't eat outside chicken at all. If we eat chicken, it's just like when we raise chicks. Right. So, and then we use, a lot of for soup and, bone broth. Okay, tip number 5. Make your own shampoo bars or buy them. So people don't realize that you can wash your hair with Dr. Bronner's, I guess the liquid soap and the soap bars. And you can easily find shampoo bars also like on Amazon. But it will save you a ton of money to buy, just the Dr. Bronner's bars. And then you just rub it on your hair, rinse it, and then do a vinegar rinse. And you don't have to buy anything extra. It's very, very inexpensive. Or you can make your own. And there's lots of recipes for soap, for shampoo bars online. So I hope you enjoyed our 5 tips for week 4. And I hope that they will help you in your journey to saving money. From our Texas Hill Country farmstead to you, have a blessed day, and we will see you on the next video. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.